Take a look at this from the Daily Mail. Scientist delivers ominous message to humanity after UFO covered in strange writing is found. I saw this, and it's this like metal sphere. I wonder if I can play the video.
El jueves 1 de mayo del 2025, el señor José Luis Velázquez, especialista.
Okay, it's all Spanish. I'm not going to. He's performed a series of tests on what's called the BUGHA sphere, which fell to Earth after receiving a 10,000 volt charge. The images obtained yielded surprising results. Inside, you can see a dense layer surrounding the white outline. I don't know that this is real. Maybe it's fake. This is an image. It's got strange symbols on it. I don't know why it needs to have those strange symbols on it. Interestingly, there's been a viral video going around for some time that many claim is debunked, showing orbs circling an airplane. Now we have this story from Colombia of a so-called UFO in the town of BUGHA zigzagging through the sky. They say it was struck by powerful energy, fell down, and this is what we got. Interesting. Scientists have been analyzing it, and it's got 3 layers of metal-like material and 18 microspheres surrounding a central nucleus they are calling a chip. Now, I'm not sure if aliens exist. We had Eric Burleson, the rep, on several times, a couple times in the past couple of weeks, as he discussed his hearings on UFOs. I'm a skeptic. Aliens could be hiding from us, perhaps. I mean, do geese understand what we are? They can see us. I don't know. Do ants? Maybe they're aliens that they have the technology that we can't see them. Maybe they can move interdimensionally. Who knows? I'll tell you what I think is more likely. In this article from some time ago, U.S. government announces it has achieved ability to manipulate space and time with new technology. And that's where things got interesting. Let me play this clip.
The well-intentioned regulatory regime of the 1970s became an ever-tightening ratchet, first hampering America's ability to become a net energy exporter and then making it harder and harder to build. We seem to have lost focus and vision, to have lowered our sights and let systems and structures and bureaucracies muddle us along. But we are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow and improve productivity.
Very, very interesting. So let's dive into this. I'm going to bring in our guest now, Ashton Forbes, who's generated a lot of attention talking about these issues. I believe we have this loading up now. Usually takes a quick second, but bear with me. And Ashton, can you hear me?
Yeah, how's it going, Tim?
How's it going?
Oh, it's going, man. It's going.
4 orbs I see floating behind you on that wall. So, have you seen this story coming out of Colombia of the BUGHA sphere?
Yeah, I've seen it. A lot of people ask me about it. They ask me, "Is that the thing inside of those orbs spinning around the plane?" And I tell people, I don't think so, but I don't really know because I can't tell what's inside the orbs.
Right. So this is interesting because you've been tracking, you've had this video that you've been analyzing for some time. You've been putting out information that you believe this is, the video that we're getting is some kind of government's, what is it, infrared technology for video or something? Do you want to explain that?
Yeah, so I've been exposing the MH370 videos. I don't know if you can share what I show here. I'll show the screen, but these MH370 videos, the biggest revelation that has come along recently is that this is Gorgon Stare, Air Force's Gorgon Stare technology in one of these videos that people think is fake. They think it's, I don't know, whatever, Unreal Engine, Arma 3, Call of Duty, or whatever. And it's not any of those things. Those MH370 videos are real leaked military footage. The big revelation was finding out is Gorgon Stare wide area motion imagery. That's why we see the video move around. And that's why we're seeing it in a low frame rate. That's why we see the coordinates in the bottom left update in a higher frame rate than what we see the actual background move around in. And I had multiple sources confirm to me that the video is actually Gorgon Stare. So anyone that doesn't think so, I mean, it's simple to confirm it. All you have to do is just talk to somebody in the Air Force and they can confirm that that's legitimate.
So this is a video of, this is research you've had going back to MH370. Were you doing this research before those videos came out?
No, that was just something that when I saw those videos, saw that they seemed to be authentic, I dug into it, researched it. That's when you invited me back on the show back in, I think it was January of 2024. And the reason why I wanted to talk to you is that you had said that you had a source that told you that we have faster than light communication.
Yep.
And if those videos were real, which now I know for sure they are, then that I knew that must be real as well. And that's the exact same science that is on display in those videos. Quantum tunneling, faster than light communication, we're seeing that just scaled up in the video.
So for those that are not familiar, just to make sure we give you guys proper context, MH370, of course, that was the Malaysian airliner, went missing.
Yep. So MH370, Malaysian airliner disappears March 8th, 2014. Never seen again. We get a few pieces of debris wash up in Africa. Everybody admits there must be some cover up going on. Planes can't just disappear. Planes should leave a massive debris field if it crashes into the ocean. And it's taken me 2 years to figure out what really happened. And now I think I'm fairly confident that what it was not just a simple covert operation. It was a counter-espionage operation. The people responsible for MH370 is China. China was trying to steal our technology, and the CIA in the United States said, that's not going to happen. And you say, well, that's kind of crazy. They would target a civilian airliner for something like that. Well, welcome to the price that it takes to keep us safe in America.
But you believe that, so there's this video, there's two videos, and they show orbs circle, it's 4 orbs circling around the plane?
So it's actually 3 orbs circling around the plane. The 4th orb, if you remember, Dave Rossi was the person I brought with me on your show in January of 2024. He's a defense contractor. He's the one that came up with the idea and theory that there's a 4th orb that determines the entanglement. They entangle the 3 orbs to the 4th orb's location, and that's how it determines the vector of where it's actually going to go.
Interesting.
And I actually found out what the orbs are too in the last 2 years.
Well,
I couldn't believe I would find it, but I'm just going to read off this paper and what it's called. This is by Frank Mead, who's Air Force Research Labs, 2006. Propulsion and power generation capabilities of a future dense plasma focus fusion system for future military aerospace applications. And it says what this can be used for is a dense plasma fusion and propulsion technology with a advanced lifting body airframe utilizing air-breathing magnetohydrodynamics, which means it just zaps the air and uses it as energy to produce a single-stage-to-orbit vehicle. So a vehicle that can just go from the ground into orbit.
Where was this published? What is this document?
This is a publicly available peer-reviewed research paper. And the papers that people are going to want to read are the Air Force Research Lab papers from the early 2000s. That's when they figured out, between the 90s and 2000s, they figured out that plasma can become stabilized under the right conditions. And they looked at the Russian hypersonic, the Ajax and the scramjet designs, and they figured out something called perfect propulsion. Listen to the efficiency rate of this engine from this scientific paper. The Q factor was varied from 3 to 6. That's the over unity factor.
What do those mean?
That's producing 3 to 6 times excess energy. So from a fusion reaction that we've been trying to produce publicly, to get a Q factor of 3 that's sustained, we'd basically have free energy on this planet. So a Q factor of 3 to 6 in one of these orbs they're generating says resulting in gigawatts of excess power. Thruster efficiency was varied from 90% to 100%. What they've figured out is perfect propulsion. So you see these orbs, and what the orb really is something where it's got like a cavity that sucks in the air. So while it's moving around, it's actually producing energy just from moving around in the sky. And the efficiency of the engine itself is near perfect efficiency. So the end result of this is that you have a ball of electricity that's producing essentially free energy by just moving around in the sky.
Well, you say essentially, and it's actually consuming matter and just converting the matter at a very efficient rate.
It's a very clever use of normal physics. Exactly.
Right. Which is most technology.
All this UFO stuff's going to boil down to. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's just most technology. We're finding better ways to efficiently convert energy, or we're consistently trying to do so. I'm skeptical. You know what I will say is the weird thing to me, and I want to preface just one more time. Like the reason I thought it was interesting to talk to you is we have this story of the BUGHA sphere, and maybe completely unrelated, but here you have this story where in Colombia they see this giant silver sphere floating in the sky. They knock it down. And when they scan through it, it just looks like dense metal with weird microspheres inside of it. Maybe it's a hoax. I don't know. There was a story where they claimed to have found alien mummies or something. It could all be fake. I have no idea. But I will say this, and this is not to get to the validity of the videos being real. I honestly don't know. I'm skeptical. But I've been getting, as soon as you mentioned, like we're going to interview you again about this stuff, because there is one more story. This is a science administrator for the Trump administration saying that we have the technology to manipulate time and space, which I'll talk to you in a second. So these stories pop up, and I'm like, all right, let's talk to Ashton about what he's been working on. I started getting inundated by a bunch of people, like angry, furious. We've had flat earthers. We did a show on the Culture War where we had a flat earther, a geocentrist, and a standard physicist debate these issues. And they asked us to pull up papers and pull up these videos. Nobody messaged me. Nobody tweeted at me. Nobody attacked me. But when you posted that we were going to talk about this, I got slammed by a bunch of people saying that I was a fraudster, that I was propping up insanity and conspiracies and lies. And I'm like, what do you talk? We have a whole show called Tales from the Inverted World that just talks about Sasquatch and UFOs and ghosts. Why is this one issue so heated that I have to believe the VFX guys claim it's debunked? I'm like, sure, I don't care. It's fun to talk about. But I got a wave of hate and attacks for even entertaining this. And my view is, they've got a video of an orb flying over Colombia. We had Rep. Eric Burleson, a congressman, have recently had hearings on UAPs where he was told by some aerospace physicist engineer that there are 4 species of aliens. Again, I'm not saying I believe any of it, but when members of Congress are having these conversations, I'm like, hey, let's talk about this space and what people think may be happening. The backlash I found pretty interesting.
Oh, man. Well, so I just got to tell you, I intentionally leaked that because I wanted you to see that. I want the world to see what people are trying to do to me behind the scenes because, like you said, people don't do this for Bigfoot or flat Earth or whatever else. Yeah. I'm out here just trying to tell people we've got teleportation is real. I'm trying to explain it. I'm trying to solve a cold case of a missing airplane. And people are acting like I'm, the worst thing on the earth. I'm like, the fact that there's this massive disinformation campaign to try to get people to believe the videos are fake and not look at them, because the more you look at them, the more they're obviously real. That should really tell people something. I had Ross Coulthart, News Nation anchor, or a journalist, quote unquote, email Scott Roeder, the guy that did that story about the Las Vegas aliens or whatever it was, the tall aliens, emailed him because the guy put a post up on social media, supported me, emails him and says that he makes up stories about how my followers are sending him death threats and I'm the worst person in the world. That's an anchor on News Nation doing that.
No way.
They were trying to say I'm a grifter. I'm not selling anything. They tried to say I'm crazy. I learned quantum mechanics. They try to say I'm an alcoholic. It's crazy. I have actually people in my family that suffer with that.
Well, they're not very good at smearing you, I guess. That is the point. Of all of the subjects, this one became a weird hot button issue. And I've never cared all that much about the MH370 story. I remember it was on CNN 24/7. They wouldn't shut up about it. It's like their biggest story. And now there are people, I randomly got people posting super chats on IRL saying, you're a scumbag, Tim, pushing fake videos to trick stupid people. And I was like, what? And I'm like, we've talked about way crazier stuff than this. We talk about ghosts and demons and stuff. Why is this one? But let's get back into it.
Sure.
I did find it interesting, but we had that story. I think it was a month or two ago, where that science administrator for the Trump admin said our technology allows us to manipulate time and space. And the first thing I thought, when talking to my friends and other workers, my first question was, I know the answer for me, but has anyone ever referred to any technology in common use as manipulating time and space? No. So is there a turn of phrase where it's like, my car goes so fast, it effectively allows me to manipulate time? No. There is no common parlance to claim that planes manipulate time and space as if we're exaggerating because we can fly to London in a few hours. It sounds like what he was saying was that our trains are slow, our cars are slow, our planes are slow, and they shouldn't be because our technology has reached the level of manipulating time and space. Right. Now, when you look at the past 30 years of quantum mechanics, at the quantum scale, we've had numerous experiments showing the ability to manipulate time and space. There was one study where they said and you probably know this better than me, they sent a photon forward and backward in time at the same time. Things like that. And they always preface it with, but this is just the quantum level. We don't know how to scale it up.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, now I'm asking for your take on this. The technology actually goes a bit further than what we know, and that would make sense. The government keeps this technology a secret.
Yep, absolutely. And so if we had a unification theory of quantum and general relativity, the small and the very large, then we could scale it up. So if they were hiding a unification theory, if they knew what the answer was to the questions in physics that we struggle with, dark matter, dark energy, and how it all comes together, then they could scale it up. And I would argue they have figured that out. I would argue they've had that figured out for many decades. And the reason why they've hidden it is that it leads to fusion and it leads to free energy and other things that our society is not prepared for. Now, you mentioned that Eric Burleson talked to Eric W. Davis, that science guy talking about the aliens.
Yeah.
Fun fact about Eric W. Davis, he's the right-hand man of Hal Puthoff, who I've identified as the world's leading expert on zero-point energy. He's a government spook. He might be MJ number one, if you believe in the MJ-12 stuff.
We got a lot of jargon real quick. So first, what is zero-point energy?
So zero-point energy, you can think of it as what makes up space-time itself if you were to take out all the energy. Take out all the light, take out all the heat, and what's left? What we refer to as space-time, what gives our physical reality structure. That space-time is the scaffolding, or that zero-point energy is the scaffolding holding up that space-time. That's why distance is an illusion. Because if you can manipulate the zero-point energy, you can manipulate space and time. That's what they've figured out. And so how do you manipulate it? Well, we know. The Casimir effect shows us. That's why you hear all these people on Joe Rogan and everything. I always talk about Casimir effect. Just put two plates together and they come together.
In a vacuum, yeah.
Why?
Right?
Because they're pushing out certain wavelengths. Because think about this, the zero-point energy is like the white noise, but it's just a bunch of waves everywhere. So if you push out certain waves, you manipulate that zero-point energy.
So in the film The Incredibles, for those that remember, the bad guy Syndrome used zero-point energy to be able to move any object by pointing at it.
And so think of it like using like noise cancellation, like with your headphones. If you were to cancel out all that noise, then you can theoretically push out space and time or manipulate space and time. So what are the orbs doing in the MH370 videos? They are jamming themselves together to create a very powerful EMP, a non-thermal radiative pulse. And what that does is push away all the zero-point energy. Salvatore Pais, the U.S. Navy engineer, his patents basically show this. And when you do that for a brief moment, that plane blips out of existence. It blips out of existence, and it's in the true nothingness, And so what this would mean is that there really is this extra dimension, but it's not like the extra bizarro dimension. It's just a shortcut between any 2 points in space and time, an Einstein-Rosen bridge.
Like an Einstein-Rosen bridge, you said?
Yes, like an Einstein. And then there's this idea of ER equals EPR. Einstein-Rosen bridge, a wormhole, is fundamentally equivalent to Einstein-Poldosky-Rosen, which is quantum entanglement. So if you can do faster than light communication, create Morse code by just looking for these wave patterns in this medium, use quantum sensing to look for these wave patterns in this medium, then you can create a Morse code situation. You can create a situation where the plane disappears out of time and then reappears somewhere else.
So you mentioned earlier that I had talked about faster than light communications. And I've had people tweet at me that's wrong and I'm crazy and super chat stuff. The general idea is quantum entanglement, and you might be able to explain this better than me, but the idea is two electrons are entangled.
So you just entangle two particles, and here's what they figured out. There's a DIRD, Defense Intelligence Reference Documents. These were the most popular classified documents in the 2010s. There's like 38 of them. Eric W. Davis, the guy that was sitting next to Eric Burleson, he wrote 6 of them. Wow. One of them is quantum communication systems. In fact, they figured out a way where they can get around the retrocausality issue. They basically put in a speed limit into the quantum entanglement. And what this would allow you to do, Tim, is you could control a rover on Mars in real time.
Yep.
Think about that.
You could
control a rover on Mars in real time.
But beyond that, you could send a video in real time. So right now, what's the light delay? Like 20 minutes to Mars or something like that?
Yeah, I thought it's 8 or something. But yes, whatever
Maybe
the
8.
delay is, you could get away with that. There would be no lag. If you like to play video games, we could create a quantum network where there's no lag at all, where
Right.
all the actions are seemingly happening in real time.
So
And
what was
Eric W.
what was
Let me
explained to
just
me
finish one thing,
is,
that-
real
okay,
quick, for people who probably don't understand this stuff, entangled particles, they do something to the particles. So there's 2 particles that, I'll give you the real simple layman term. If you charge one or interact with one, the other reacts the same way. And so the general idea is, you have one particle in this building and one in that building. You are poking one, and the other one's moving as if being poked, despite no one being in the room. So then they realized, hey, we can send binary through an entangled particle in one place and have it instantaneously transmit that binary. It's almost like a sub-quantum or a quantum transmission line. It was explained to me that we actively are building these systems. It doesn't really matter that much on Earth because you can almost nearly instantaneously communicate as it is, militarist in terms of military importance. But as we're getting into space travel, we are going to need this technology, especially if we start colonizing Mars. So we're not going to be happy with a 20-minute lag time between communications. We're going to want real-time communication. Entanglement communication, FTL communication is that key.
Yep. And Hal Puthoff was just on Joe Rogan, and the best part of that interview was when he was talking about his quantum communication patent from the 90s. And I'm guaranteed that he built one of those for the government in the 90s, and the version that he's got publicly, the reason why he couldn't keep doing it is that our public material manufacturing isn't nearly as good as the defense contractors is.
Yeah.
One more thing I want to say too, Eric W. Davis, his right-hand man, he's the world's leading expert on wormholes. I think he's the one that figured out the teleportation for the Air Force. And then the last thing is Sonny White. He was also just on Joe Rogan. Go look at the comments. They're all saying that Joe Rogan needs to talk to me because I've been basically talking about Hal Puthoff and Sonny White. Sonny White showed Joe Rogan a free energy microchip. He said, here you go, hold this prototype in your hand, and said, you just put this in your phone and then your phone would never, ever run out of battery. And
So, but
I don't know if people know this. One last thing. Sonny White was the guy that tested the EM drive. Remember that impossible drive?
Yeah,
He's the one that tested it for NASA and found anomalous thrust. They had to like backtrack on his, on his findings.
I just want to clarify when we say free energy, it's figurative free energy.
Yes.
Basically,
it's just a good word, but what it means is extracting this quantum energy of space-time. If space-time has this structure and we can extract that energy, that's essentially free energy. Or like the plasma balls, if they can just pull energy from air and just get energy from them moving through air, that's also essentially free energy.
The energy is there. So
Exactly.
I don't know if this chip is this the piezoelectricity thing?
No, it's using the Casimir effect. So what it does is just like the plates, but it does it on the very, very tiny scales. So on these very small microchip scales, the smaller and closer together they get, the more powerful the Casimir effect becomes. So the smaller you get it, the more powerful it is, the more energy you can extract from that. So they basically create a little motor. Go ahead.
For people who don't know, the Casimir effect is a long. This is not science fiction. This is, you go to any college freshman laboratory and they can show you this. 2 plates in a vacuum and they begin to pull towards each other because there's, I think, what like electrons passing between them, like they're coming into and out of existence or something like that.
There's more waves on the outside than on the inside. Think of it like that. If there's more on the outside, on the inside, then it'll push together. So we create this pressure. And what it means is that unification has been figured out. What is the unifier? Electricity. Tesla was right. Electricity is the thing that unifies the very small and the very large. There is no dark matter. There is no dark energy. The 0-point energy accounts for these things. We're in a medium of energy. The answer to the 3-body problem, like why doesn't the Earth get pulled out of its orbit by Jupiter? Because it's outside of us. Because we're in a medium. It's not an empty space. We're in a sticky substance that we're sitting inside, moving around all the time.
Man. Well, I think the reality as to why this technology is not going to be exposed and why we might never see it in our lifetime, who knows? We need a population that builds things from the smallest components, sourcing raw materials. If the U.S. government, technology companies, or any foreign government came out right now and said, here's how we can extract energy from the atmosphere and convert it with near perfect efficiency, we don't need oil anymore. The economy just implodes. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, we have access to this, to anti-gravity, or we have functional free energy," and they've been saying this for years online in these conspiracy videos. But the government won't let us have it because the oil companies want control. And I don't think it's that simple. I think it's, if we're going to build rocket ships, if we're going to source the components for these machines and technologies, somebody has to mine the cobalt. And so the concern is, if we had a rapid expansion of energy capabilities, it would completely disrupt the global economy, of which our technological infrastructure is built off 100+ years of oil infrastructure. So likely military applications that are above top secret are utilizing these technologies. And conventionally, what we see on TV and think we use, they're functional, but largely for show, I'd say. The real capabilities are probably behind the scenes, and people would be shocked at the exponential technological advancement that the military's got.
Yep. So what I'll say is real quick is you ask people, what's the energy source of these UFOs? There's no SpaceX rockets with fuel tanks on them. They're using an external energy source, clearly. That's what people should be pressing everybody in the UFO community on. And then Sierra Nevada Corporation is the one that produced Gorgon Stare. So you can pretty much just say whatever you want about them because apparently they're recording secret illegal operations and sending them to the Joint Intelligence Tactical Network. And then the last thing is you brought up the best point. It's really not as simple as like, it's just they're hiding it because they're greedy. It's a lot more than just that. It will literally change our entire civilization forever. We're talking about not just free energy, but transmutation as well, which means Star Trek replicators are in our future for everyone. And it's dangerous. Like imagine if terrorists or ISIS had this type of technology. The scary part about the technology is it's not hard to create. It's actually relatively simple. So when this does get exposed, we're gonna get whiplash from how quickly our entire civilization changes.
I think the issue largely is, how do you build a replicator? Like I don't know that I'm more skeptical. I don't know that they can do that. But let's just say the technology for replication exists, and the way it works in sci-fi is the Star Trek, for instance, the ship is absorbing free energies in space. Electrons get dragged in. Those particles are forced and reshaped through a replicator into a food item or a glass or whatever. The issue is, you need to build those replicators. You need certain components. You need certain raw materials that can't necessarily be replicated. So someone's got to mine the cobalt. If you came out and said everyone's got free food forever, then people are going to say, then I don't want to work. And they'll go lay on the grass and they'll stare at the sky. So they intentionally keep these things scaled in such a way that the work that needs to be done will always be getting done. And then maybe at some point there will be a conversion into a new civilization when the technology is released. Now, I'll say one. I'll give you the final thoughts, but my final thoughts. I don't think the technology necessarily exists today, but I do think there's technology that would blow our minds that does exist, and we have no idea what it is.
Yeah, no, it definitely exists. They've got a coherent matter wave beam. You're going to want to look that one up. There's a good clip on my Twitter about it. That's exactly what they can do to produce nanoscale atomic level manufacturing, which is what would be needed for a replicator. It also is 1,000 or 1,000,000 to 1,000,000,000 times more powerful than a laser. It's essentially like taking matter and combining it down to a single point, just like you would with a laser beam. And quantum mechanics shows that that's actually possible. Wow. The last thing I want to say is that you're right about them dripping out the stuff to us. That's what they're out to do to us with fusion. They're going to show us fusion. They're going to say, we broke fusion. It's going to be this really inefficient version that's like slightly more efficient than probably like coal and oil and stuff like that. They're going to make it into a whole political thing like they've done with solar and wind. And then the last thing is Elon Musk has no idea about this. I know people are going, he knows, he's covering up. No, he's completely blue-pilled on this one aspect. And I can't wait to see when he ends up finding out that the reason why the defense contractors aren't competing is because it's a national security issue. That's the reason why they're not destroying him in SpaceX. And it's going to be the biggest red pill ever.
Or could it be that they're beyond this technology and so they don't care?
Exactly. That's the thing. Why have we not gone back to the moon? I would take a different approach from Candace Owens, although I highly respect her. I would say we haven't gone back to the moon because it's a legal liability to send a rocket up to the moon that has like a low % chance of, or some chance of something horrible happening when we just have magical orbs that can teleport stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've got this this BUGHA sphere, and it's always easy to dismiss these things as, here's what I'll say. The BUGHA sphere is fascinating, and we say, yeah, but maybe it's a hoax. The problem is, anytime we were to make a tremendous discovery, we can't just assume they're always hoaxes. I think it's fair to say trust but verify, or in this instance, I remain skeptical but open to the possibilities. It's if we were to actually see an anti-grav device or a teleportation device, and everyone just says it's a hoax. Okay, well, maybe it's not, right? We have to be open to the possibility. Otherwise, how do we discover these things? So when people say they see aliens or ghosts or whatever it is, when people say, oh, you're crazy, the video's fake, I'm like, yeah, sure, maybe. And I think it's fine to approach all of this from, it's probably not real, but we should be analytical of it. We should question these technologies, because it kind of goes to that saying of, Jesus returned today, how would you know it was him? You have to be open to the possibility of miracles, of things you can't comprehend, and you can't just dismiss everything all the time. Otherwise, you'd never discover anything. I'll put it this way. Imagine the first dude who ever saw a lightning strike and started a fire. And then he went and said, a flash of light blinded me, and the streak came from the sky, and then this emerged. They'd be like, BS, get out of here. You're making that up. No, you got to be like, okay, maybe they're telling the truth. But thanks for joining me, Ashton. Where can people find you?
Yeah, find me at JustXAshton on Twitter. And just remember, guys, if you gave Da Vinci the iPhone, he wouldn't know what it is either. Anti-gravity is just a clever use of physics. It's not some magical thing.
Right on. Well, thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.
Have a good one.
Take care. I love all this stuff. I love all these stories, claims. Who knows? I'm going to say it again. I remain skeptical, and I think it's fine if you're like, it's probably all fake. We wish these things were true because life is more mundane. But I do think it's fair to say the U.S. government has technology we don't understand. That doesn't mean we can teleport. I've heard from intelligence individuals that we are working on building faster than light communications. That's not science fiction. We have entangled particles. This is like routine physics you get at any university. And if these things are true, then we can conceptualize utilizing entanglement to transmit data. Binary, yes and no, ones and zeros. And maybe it's slow, but information can be transmitted in such a way. I suppose we won't know unless someone releases all the information. So, my friends, we are going to send a raid to our good friend Russell Brand, who I believe is gearing up to go live now. And we'll send you over there. Make sure you smash the like button, share the show, follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. We'll be back tonight for Timcast IRL at 8 p.m. I humbly request all of you join us tonight at 8 p.m. Let's make you guys have made the show consistently the second biggest show, and I really do appreciate it. Getting back into the warmer season, which means most people are going to be outside, not watching online videos. And so it is what it is. We need your help. If you think that we do a good job and the show is good, sharing shows is how everything gets big. Honestly, you go to the industry, you go behind the scenes and say, how do you get a big podcast? They say, people have to share it. That's how every podcast succeeds. Somebody watches it and says, I love this show. You guys should check it out. And then boom. So if you like this show, if you like Timcast IRL, please share it. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all tonight.